Alright, we've strayed a bit here. As for the matter at hand, we have a larger mobilization resource, and we still produce weapons ourselves, even if it's not a lot or of poor quality. Now, let's take the example of videos with rapiers. People started shouting that Russia has run out of artillery, everything is broken, and the barrels are worn out. So, they started using rapiers instead. But if someone is interested in military topics and goes on YouTube, for instance, they might come across a Ukrainian channel like the Azov Regiment or the Azov Brigade, as it's called now. In Russia, Azov is banned, but they still shoot rapiers there. Similarly, they are using indirect fire from concealed positions, meaning they are effectively employing it against the enemy. Everyone remains silent about the fact that the enemy is shooting from Maxim machine guns. In my opinion, if we don't have enough ammunition but we have ammunition for rapiers or D1s, why not use it? And why is it sitting in storage? It is possible to provide people with these ammunition and weapons. After all, they can learn to shoot with them. This particular cannon is very accurate. We, for example, fired with the D1 from 1943. We had 3 cannons, which we exchanged for 2 DJI Mavic 3 drones. We fired with them, and we had 1,000 rounds. The artillery chief was with us. They told him that he would hit the target with 13 shots, but he started hitting the target after only 11 shots. It weighs 40 kilograms, such a huge projectile.
40 kilograms is still lightweight. They even have projectiles weighing 50 kilograms.
Well, yes, but the only thing is that it's not safe in terms of having to get close. The maximum firing range, I believe, is 12 kilometers. Everyone wants to shoot from a safer and farther distance, where it's more secure.
Well, it's understood that they have the M777 with actively propelled projectiles and so on. They can reach almost 30 kilometers there.
T-55, they say, why do we need them? Well, you won't be able to match it against a Leopard or some latest Abrams tank. It doesn't stand a chance there. But shooting from an open firing position is like shooting from a cannon. Well, you can perfectly well shoot from this tank.
I'm actually quite enthusiastic about the T-55 myself, being a fan of armored vehicles. So, let me jump in here. The story is quite simple. You see, when the Ukrainians took control of the Kharkiv region, which was previously under Russian control, they made a breakthrough. And in this breakthrough, they started using these vehicles like MRAP, Humvee, Oshkosh. These were all sorts of lightly armored, wheeled vehicles with machine guns, like improvised technicals or cavalry chargers. They simply bypassed certain strongholds where resistance was encountered and pushed forward, so to speak. And imagine this beautiful column is moving along the road, and suddenly a T-55 emerges and unleashes a salvo of 100mm shells onto the Humvee leading the column. Can you imagine the level of shock and impact on the column? The thing is, these T-55 tanks can be held in reserve for counterattacks. So, let's say a column breaks through, you deploy a few tanks for a counterattack and crush that column of light vehicles. Yes, it's possible that some T-55 tanks may be destroyed using anti-tank missiles like javelins they might have, but the column will already be halted, scattered, and partially burned out. Even if you lose those tanks, which aren't too precious in the grand scheme of things, the overall impact will be significant.
Давай. Готово. Дуб, наблюдай. Выстрел. Есть. Дотащи рукой. Есть. Готов. Kirill, и пусть потом подписчики.
Even if they're not used for firing from a concealed position, they can still be used for ambush operations. When you have a tank camouflaged and dug in, only a portion of the turret and barrel is visible. And even if it gets shot at and destroyed, it's not a big loss. You can easily abandon a T-55, but you can't abandon a T-90. So, I completely agree with you, although I must admit that you seem to have a more precise understanding of the technical aspects. I'm not very knowledgeable about this, but I think it's still a lightly armored tank. So personally, I wouldn't use it in head-on battles. However, as a mortar, for example, I mean not as a mortar, but at distances, How the same 120 mortar works? I believe it operates up to 7 kilometers. In other words, it works quite well with a high trajectory.
Regarding the lightly armored tank, the side armor of the T-55 and T-90M is the same, about 75 to 80 millimeters. It's identical. You can then add whatever you want to this tank, wherever you please. Essentially, they can be fitted with Contact 1 explosive reactive armor, as the Ukrainians did, and there was also a factory modification called the T-55MV. So, in field conditions, it's possible to do that. The tank can withstand a standard RPG-7 projectile in the frontal projection. I mean the PG-7VL, the Beam 1, which is non-tandem. Just the regular RPG-7, not some ancient version. I believe you've seen it approximately 1 billion times in war.
Not only have I seen it 1 million times, but I have also witnessed how it halted AT-64 with just one shot, and with the second shot, the turret simply flew off, and that was it.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, the RPG-7 is indeed a reliable and functional grenade launcher.
Yes, but when equipped with Contact 1 explosive reactive armor, the tank in the frontal projection can withstand the RPG-7. At least the tank is likely to survive and continue functioning. However, in the side projection, it doesn't matter what tank you're riding. Whether it's AT-90 or T-72B3, if there are impacts where there is no explosive reactive armor, it will likely result in penetration. If you were to add explosive reactive armor to the T-55, similar to the T-72B3, the side armor would be comparable. Well, the T-55 is not poorly armored to the extent that it would be vulnerable to automatic gunfire. It can withstand fire from automatic cannons, be it 30mm or 20mm, without much trouble. It has good resistance to shell fragments as well. The real difference would be observed when it comes to being targeted by tank projectiles. However, as I mentioned before, the T-55 is no longer capable of engaging in tank duels effectively.
And if the BMP-1 has a capable crew operating within urban areas, it can certainly pose a competition to tanks, especially if the crew is coordinated and capable of swift movement. Additionally, it is equipped with a powerful cannon, if I'm not mistaken, that can fire high explosive anti-tank projectiles.
The SPG-9, well, it uses the same ammunition as the SPG. Well, with the SPG, you can shoot at anything, basically.
Like a heavyweight boxing match, in tank warfare, every blow can be decisive. Similarly, in a tank battle, the one who detects and fires first can have the advantage and potentially secure victory.